I'm going to tell you about the first time that I ever had a seizure. I don't think I've ever told, besides like close friends who already know about it, I don't think I ever told you guys my first time that I had a seizure. So let's get started. Alright. Yo! What is poppin', people? How are you doing? I actually am back to normal. It's a long story. It's yesterday. If you watch my video, it was literally like I uploaded it around like 11 last night. So yesterday I was not feeling good. Obviously, anybody who doesn't know, I have epilepsy, and yesterday I had to take. It's called a Klonopin. It's a very odd name. It's something that you put underneath your tongue and eventually evaporates, and it takes about an hour until it kicks in, and what it does, it makes me extremely drowsy and pretty much just pass out immediately. So yesterday we were on the beach. I'm already back now at home. I was not feeling good at all. Reason why, because it was partially my fault, because I drank a little bit too much down the shore, but then also I think it was a combination of both the alcohol and also caffeine, and then also even sugar too. So those are like three things that are horrible for me, that literally caused me from having seizures. But today I am going to tell you about the first time that I ever had a seizure. I don't think I've ever told, besides like close friends who already know about it, I don't think I ever told you guys my first time that I had a seizure. Now, I am back in 9th grade, and I remember exactly the time of the year. The time of the year was January, freezing cold out, and my class, it was English. My class was the first period of the day. I had to be in class at 10 after 8 o'clock, and I remember this as if it was just yesterday. I remember this so much. So the first thing was, you go into class, and the class was set up as it's not like a regular class of where it's just simply like rows and like columns like that. So the way that the class was made, it was almost like the way that I kind of in college for like a professor, they're right in the center, and then it's like a 180 of where the tables come around and make half a circle. Now, where I sat was simply right in the center, facing the teacher, but I was all the way in the back row. So it was like 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So the first thing was, my teacher, I remember her name because I looked her up, and I completely forgot about her. It was Mrs. Martin, and I kid you not, she looked exactly like Lady Gaga. I kid you not, looked exactly like Lady Gaga. So, first period, I go in there, I sit down, and we had this in a certain order. We start the day by looking at the backboard of where we had all of our work that we have to do for the next day, for next class. There was like homework, it was pretty much like organized exactly what we're gonna do throughout the day, and then also like your homework and everything like that. So, we all look in the back, just like this. Actually, let me see. I was facing this way, yeah. Okay, so we're looking at the back of the board. I turn my head like this, and this is at the time, so I can't see to my right side. So we all turn to the right. I'm trying to look at the board, and for some odd reason, I got stuck. I couldn't move my head. My head was completely stuck this way, and I couldn't pull back. And then I immediately started drooling. Anybody who doesn't know about epilepsy. They don't know anything about it. There are certain seizures that you can have. And the one that I had, and this went on for, I've had epilepsy for over 8 years now, but starting out, I had grand mals. And grand mals is completely like freezing up, head to the side, drooling, shaking, everything. And now, I didn't know how to react. Now my body, when my head got stuck, I couldn't talk. And that's what I've always had. Like every single seizure, I can never talk. When somebody is like asking me, Michael, are you okay? Or I should say, Clan, are you okay? I immediately freaked out. I freaked out and didn't know what to do. So I jump out of my class. Now, my class, again, everybody, I'm right in the center. And everyone can see me because it's like a 180. Everybody can see me right in the center. So now I freaked out. I jumped out of my chair, not jumped out of my chair because like obviously my body is like really like tightened up and everything. But I was able to get out of my chair. And I remember Mrs. Martin, she didn't know, okay, Mrs. Martin, this was her first year of being a teacher. Why is this not focusing? Mrs. Martin, this was her first year at an actual school, like becoming like a professional teacher. So I got out of my chair, and I went right into the center of the class. Now, she had no clue what to do because she was a complete idiot. She had to have been in like her young 30s and she had no clue at all about epilepsy, obviously, because she was like staring right at me and she kept saying, "Hey Michael, are you alright? Are you okay?" I'm frozen. I can't talk, I can't do anything. And everybody was like frozen. They didn't know what to do. And luckily, one of my closest friends was in my class. The seizure went on for, I want to guess, maybe like 30 seconds total. So she knew that I was friends with my friend. I'm not going to say their name, but she said, "Hey, you get Mike and bring him down to the nurse." So she had no clue what to do. So she's like, "Okay, are you alright now? You can just go to the nurse and they'll help you." She was a horrible teacher, honestly. She was terrible. I went to the nurse, and the one thing is, anybody who doesn't know about epilepsy, first off, I'm gonna put it into the description because more people should know about it. Especially when you're out of school, you'll see a lot of incidents of, I probably ran into at least like 2 or 3 people who had a seizure, and I know exactly how you're supposed to react to it, so I'm gonna put it down there. Read about it. It's always better to learn something new, and especially later in your life in case this happens. I went down into the nurse's office, and the thing is, after having a seizure, especially certain seizures, when I had a grand mal, which is like the worst one that you can possibly have, you are knocked out for easily a full day to 2 days, depending on how long the seizure goes for. Mine was only like 30 seconds, and it was the first time, so I remember going into class and immediately coming out of class because I went to the nurse and I was done. I went home, and I remember we called our doctor that day. We set up an appointment, and the funny thing was, I remember actually going back to school the next day because I felt fine. It wasn't to the point of where like I was really bad, of where I had to take a few days off of school, but it was enough of where I needed a full day of rest. So I come into school the next day, and of course it's first period, so everybody in that class immediately ran up to me when I was going to class again, and everyone immediately, like, their entire personality changed, and everybody cared about me. They were so curious on how I felt, of like what happened later on that day when I left school. And I mean, it's really weird because at that time I was in like a fake relationship with this one girl. I wouldn't consider it. She was the cutest thing too, but she immediately ran up to me and gave me like a huge hug, and she was so nervous on like what happened and wanted to know. And so everybody came up to me, asked me questions on like how I was doing and everything. And ever since then, that was the beginning of me having epilepsy. I've had it for, it may not even be 8 years. It might be 9 years now, because I was back in 9th grade. So right around 9 years, I think. But that was what happened on my first time that I had a seizure, and I had no clue what happened. I just remember feeling so uncomfortable, literally standing in front of the entire class and not being able to do anything. And obviously my teacher, she was a waste. She had no experience at all. But that's mostly my story on my first seizure that I ever had, and now that I have epilepsy. I mean, it's terrible. Honestly, if you ever see somebody who has a seizure, literally grab them and help them. It is people who don't have epilepsy, they don't understand on how bad it really is and what they're going through. And the best way is to honestly just care about them. It really is. The one thing about epilepsy is that you can't do much. You literally, the only way to help is that if somebody has a grand mal and they fall onto the floor and they start to foam at the mouth, the only thing you can do is push them over to their side so that they don't drool and eventually choke. But you have to just let it happen, and hopefully if it's any more than 5 minutes, you have to rush them to the hospital, and that's when they immediately use like an IV and stop the seizure from happening. But because I've had that happen before. I had this was years ago, of where I was dehydrated, and I had 5 back-to-back seizures, and they were extreme seizures of where I passed out and woke up yelling and like screaming because I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what happened. And I remember waking up in the hospital with everybody around me freaking out. It was horrible, but I'm just gonna finish it right here. Take a look at Epilepsy Foundation. It really is something that people should know about. And that's mostly my story on the first time that I had a seizure. So, now that I feel a little bit better, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a great day, a great night, whatever time it is today, and I will talk to you later.